What if your morning bowl of oatmeal, the one you are told is heart healthy, is actually spiking your blood sugar higher than a candy bar? And what if the solution isn't cutting carbs, but eating the right carbs, the ones your great-grandmother would have recognized, but modern grocery stores have systematically erased? Stick around, because number 7 on this list is a grain the Roman army marched on that actually improves insulin sensitivity for up to 10 hours. And number 12 is a biblical grain that contains a rare starch molecule that reverses fatty liver markers in peer-reviewed studies. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we connect cutting-edge nutrition science with the foods your body was designed to thrive on. Let's get into it. Here are 15 ancient grains, ranked from remarkable to absolutely indispensable for metabolic health. Historical/ancestral anchor. 30,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers in the Fertile Crescent gathered wild einkorn. By 7,500 BC, Neolithic Turks domesticated this diploid wheat with only 14 chromosomes. Modern wheat has 42. They fed einkorn porridge to infants, noticing children grew strong without bloating. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. A 2015 study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found einkorn's lutein is 4 times higher than modern wheat, protecting pancreatic beta cells. Its starch is 72% amylose, producing a glycemic index of 45, lower than a green banana. Here's the traditional use. Soak whole einkorn overnight in water with apple cider vinegar. Simmer 90 minutes. Eat half a cup warm with pastured butter. Got forgotten. Einkorn yields half as much per acre, and industrial mills cannot separate its tiny husk. Redemption line. Einkorn still offers what it offered for 30,000 years, a slow-burning carbohydrate modern wheat forgot. Historical/ancestral anchor. In 1350 BC, Egyptian bakers sculpted emmer loaves for Pharaoh Amenhotep III's tomb. Farmers noticed land-growing emmer produced fewer cases of sugar urine, what we now call diabetes. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Emmer's alkyl resorcinol inhibits alpha amylase, the enzyme that breaks starch into glucose. A 2019 trial in the European Journal of Nutrition showed emmer pasta lowered glucose peaks 34% and raised GLP-1. Its resistant starch, 12 grams per 100 grams, ferments into butyrate, improving insulin sensitivity. Here's the traditional use. Crack whole emmer in a stone mortar. Simmer in bone broth 2 hours with garlic. Serve as savory porridge. Got forgotten. Emmer's tough glooms require specialized dehulling, so industry standardized on free-threshing wheats. Redemption line. Emmer still offers what it offered for 5,000 years, a built-in starch blocker. Historical/ancestral anchor. Roman legions marched on spelt cakes called panis militaris. In 200 BC, Cato wrote that spelt, stored 7 years, still filled a man for a day's battle. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Spelt contains a mucopolysaccharide that forms a gel in your small intestine, trapping glucose. A 2016 study in the British Journal of Nutrition found spelt sourdough produced a 59% lower glycemic response. Spelt's manganese 4.7 milligrams per cup activates superoxide dismutase, protecting pancreatic cells. Here's the traditional use. Ferment spelt berries in whey for 24 hours. Pressure cook 45 minutes. Eat cold as a breakfast salad.
Got forgotten. Spelt's low gluten elasticity makes it unsuitable for high-speed industrial bread production. Redemption line. Spelt still offers what it offered for 2,000 years, stamina instead of belly fat. Historical/ancestral anchor. Ancient Persian texts call Khorasan the grain that gives old men the strength of young bulls. DNA testing confirms it is distinct from all modern wheats, dating to 4000 BC. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Khorasan has the highest selenium of any commercial grain, 77 micrograms per cup. Its unique peptides activate AMPK, the same metabolic switch targeted by metformin. A 2018 study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed Khorasan pasta dropped fasting glucose 14% and insulin 21%. Here's the traditional use. Soak Khorasan 12 hours. Simmer with cinnamon for 90 minutes. Serve with ghee, never without fat.
Got forgotten. Khorasan's yield is 30% lower than modern wheat, so agribusiness abandoned it after the Green Revolution. Redemption line. Khorasan still offers what it offered for 6,000 years, a grain that talks to the same pathways as expensive diabetes drugs. Historical/ancestral anchor. In Ezekiel chapter 4, the prophet is instructed to take millet with other grains to bake bread that would sustain him through a siege. Minoan athletes ate millet before the first Olympic Games. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. A 2020 RCT in the Journal of Clinical Biochemistry and Nutrition gave type 2 diabetics millet porridge for 30 days. Fasting glucose dropped 27%, and HOMA-IR improved 31%. Millet's propionate signals your liver to reduce gluconeogenesis, the production of new glucose.
Here's the traditional use. Toast millet in a dry pan until nutty. Add 3 parts boiling water. Simmer 25 minutes. Eat with a raw egg yolk stirred in. Got forgotten. Millet became birdseed in the West because its yield decreases with high nitrogen fertilizers. Redemption line. Millet still offers what it offered for 8,000 years, a seed that teaches your liver to stop making excess sugar. Historical/ancestral anchor. In the Ethiopian highlands, the Oromo have cultivated sorghum since 4000 BC. Traditional healers prescribed sorghum porridge for sick blood that burns too hot, hyperglycemia. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Sorghums condense tannins bind directly to starch granules, blocking amylase. A 2019 study in Nutrients gave sorghum extract with a glucose load and reduced the glucose curve by 42%, comparable to the drug acarbose. The active compound, 3-deoxyanthocyanidin, inhibits SGLT1 in the small intestine. Here's the traditional use. Pop sorghum like popcorn in a dry-lidded pot. Toss with coconut oil and cinnamon. Never eat raw sorghum flour. Got forgotten? Sorghum was stigmatized as poverty food after the Civil War. and USDA subsidies favored corn and soy. Redemption line. Sorghum still offers what it offered for 6,000 years, a grain that swallows glucose before your bloodstream sees it. Historical/ancestral anchor. In Ethiopia's Gojam region, teff has been the staff of life since 2000 BC. Runners from the highlands ate teff before the Great Ethiopian Run, believing it gave them wind that did not run out.
Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Teff's glycemic index is between 33 and 38 lower than any commercial grain. Its calcium to magnesium ratio, 250 milligrams calcium, 223 magnesium, makes insulin receptors functional. A 2018 study in the Journal of Food Science and Technology found teff produced 71% lower insulin demand over 3 hours. Here's the traditional use. Ferment teff flour for 48 hours, then pour onto a clay griddle to make injera. For porridge, simmer 1 part teff in 4 parts water 20 minutes. Got forgotten. Teff cannot be mechanically threshed without specialized equipment, and its tiny seed size clogs conventional mills. Redemption line. Teff still offers what it offered for 4,000 years, the most insulin-sparing carbohydrate on Earth. Historical/ancestral anchor. In Tenochtitlan, amaranth was more valuable than gold. Aztec runners carried amaranth paste on relays. The Spanish banned it under penalty of death. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. A 2017 RCT in the Journal of Medicinal Food gave pre-diabetic adults amaranth flakes for 60 days. Fasting insulin dropped 22%, and postprandial glucose fell 38%. GLP-1 levels rose 41%, the same hormone targeted by expensive injectable drugs. Amaranth's high lysine directly stimulates L cells in the ileum. Here's the traditional use. Pop amaranth in a dry pot 1 tablespoon yields 1 cup. Mix with raw honey and coconut oil. Never eat raw amaranth flour. Got forgotten. Amaranth was systematically eradicated by Spanish colonizers because of its religious significance. Redemption line. Amaranth still offers what it offered for 500 years, a grain that releases the same hormones drug companies charge $500 a month for. Historical/ancestral anchor. In 8th century Ukraine, Slavic tribes grew buckwheat in poor soils where wheat would not survive. They boiled kasha, believing it protected against the wasting sickness, with sweet-smelling breath now known as diabetes. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Buckwheat contains D-chiroinositol, required for insulin signal transduction. A 2015 Croatian trial in the Journal of Nutrition and Metabolism gave type 2 diabetics buckwheat before a glucose challenge. Glucose peaks fell 15%, and fructosamine, a marker of protein glycation, dropped significantly. Its rutin inhibits aldose reductase, preventing diabetic neuropathy. Here's the traditional use. Toast buckwheat groats in a dry pan until golden. Add 2 parts boiling water, simmer 15 minutes. Eat with a poached egg and sauerkraut. Got forgotten. Buckwheat consumption collapsed after World War II
when government subsidies encouraged monocropping of corn and wheat. Redemption line. Buckwheat still offers what it offered for 1,200 years, a grain that prevents sugar from gluing your proteins together. If the pattern is becoming clear, that real food grown in real soil does what expensive medications promise, then do me a favor and hit the like button right now. It helps this channel reach people who are searching for answers that actually work. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and ring the bell. We cover ancestral nutrition, homestead health, and evidence-based natural healing every single week. Now let's finish the list with the most powerful ones. Historical/ancestral anchor. At 12,000 feet in the Andes, the Inca cultivated quinoa as the mother grain. The Spanish banned it in the 1560 seconds, and colonial records note a sudden rise in sugar sickness among the converted. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Quinoa's saponins feed bifidobacteria that produce acetate, which crosses into the brain and improves insulin sensitivity. A 2020 meta-analysis in the Journal of Diabetes Research pooled 14 trials with 672 participants. Quinoa reduced fasting glucose by 11 milligrams per deciliter and improved insulin sensitivity by 12%, most effective when replacing refined cereals. Here's the traditional use. Rinse quinoa thoroughly for 2 minutes. Toast in a dry pan, add 2 parts water, simmer 15 minutes. Eat with fermented vegetables and raw butter. Got forgotten. Quinoa's saponins tasted bitter to European colonizers, who dismissed it as animal feed for 3 centuries. Redemption line. Quinoa still offers what it offered for 5,000 years, a complete protein that feeds the bacteria your brain needs to regulate sugar. Historical/ancestral anchor. In Mali's Dogon villages, fonio has been cultivated for 5,000 years. The Dogon call it the seed of the universe. Malian armies carried fonio rations across the Sahara. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Fonio's glycemic index is between 22 and 29, lower than lentils. A 2018 study in the Journal of Cereal Science used a simulated gut model and found only 31% of fonio's starch was digested after 3 hours, compared to 87% of rice. Its methionine-rich protein matrix encapsulates starch granules. Fonio also contains cysteine, which supports glutathione production. Here's the traditional use. Rinse fonio, add 1 part to 2 parts boiling water, cover, remove from heat, stand 5 minutes. Fluff. Eat with stewed greens and a soft-boiled egg. Got forgotten. Fonio's tiny seeds fall through conventional harvesting equipment, and colonial policy prioritized cash crops. Redemption line. Fonio still offers what it offered for 5,000 years, a 5-minute grain with no glucose spike. Historical/ancestral anchor. In the 200 AD Chinese pharmacopoeia, koik's seed is listed as a superior tonic for Xiao-Ke syndrome, thirst, hunger, and sweet urine. The same formula appears in 1,300 seconds Korean texts. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Koik's seed contains koicenolide, which inhibits visceral fat formation around the liver and pancreas. A 2016 RCT in the Journal of Medicinal Food gave type 2 diabetics Koik's extract for 12 weeks. HbA1c dropped from 8.1% to 7.2%, comparable to metformin. TNF-alpha fell 34% and adiponectin rose 41%. Its GABA reduces stress-induced cortisol and subsequent liver glucose release. Here's the traditional use. Soak whole Koik seeds overnight. Simmer in 6 parts water 2 hours. Drink the decoction and eat the softened seeds. Got forgotten? Koik's seed requires long cooking times and has no relationship to European grain traditions.
Redemption line. Koi seed still offers what it offered for 1,800 years, a grain that lowers your 3-month average blood sugar as effectively as prescription medication. Historical/ancestral anchor. Roman gladiators were called hordearii, barley men, because their training diet centered on barley porridge. Galen wrote that barley eaters healed faster and described its ability to cool the blood. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Hulled barley has the highest beta-glucan of any grain, up to 11%. A 2016 meta-analysis in the Journal of Nutrition reviewed 11 RCTs. For every gram of beta-glucan, fasting glucose decreased and insulin sensitivity improved 18%. Barley's propionate down-regulates glucose 6-phosphatase in the liver, telling your liver to stop making new sugar. Hulled barley's glycemic index is 28. Here's the traditional use. Soak whole hulled barley for 24 hours. Simmer in bone broth 90 minutes. Eat cold with dates and walnuts. Never eat pearled barley. Got forgotten? Pearled barley replaced hulled in the 1,880 seconds because it cooks in 30 minutes instead of 90. Industry prioritized convenience. Redemption line. Hulled barley still offers what it offered for 2,000 years, a grain that puts the liver to sleep on making new glucose. Historical/ancestral anchor. At the Viking settlement of Hedeby, rye grains dating to 850 AD have been found. Norse sagas describe rye flatbreads that filled a man's belly with a single mouthful. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. A 2014 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition compared rye porridge to wheat porridge. Rye reduced postprandial glucose by 46% and increased satiety by 44% over 8 hours. The second meal effect was striking. Rye for breakfast lowered the glucose response to lunch by 33%. Rye's benzoxazinoids inhibit alpha amylase as effectively as the drug acarbose. Here's the traditional use. Crack whole rye berries. Simmer in salted water 60 minutes. Eat with a poached egg and sautéed mushrooms. Avoid pumpernickel, not made from 100% whole rye. Got forgotten? Rye is susceptible to ergot fungus, and modern agriculture favored crops with more predictable disease resistance. Redemption line. Rye still offers what it offered for 1,200 years, a grain that turns off hunger for half a day while blocking sugar spikes. Historical/ancestral anchor. Around 2000 BC, a village in Lebanon discovered freekeh when a field of green wheat caught fire. The villagers rubbed away charred husks
and found roasted, immature grains that kept without spoiling. Bridge sentence. Here's what they understood that modern biochemistry has now confirmed. Modern science. Freekeh is harvested young while the grain is still milky. Roasting creates a novel, resistant starch not found in mature wheat. A 2021 study in food chemistry found that 43% of Freekeh's starch resisted digestion, the highest of any grain food. That resistant starch ferments into butyrate, improving insulin sensitivity. Freekeh also has 3 times more lutein than mature wheat. Here's the traditional use. Boil Freekeh in salted water or bone broth for 35 minutes. Drain and sauté with caramelized onions. Eat with generous olive oil. Avoid quick-cook Freekeh. Got forgotten. Freekeh remained a regional secret because the roasting process is labor-intensive and cannot be scaled industrially. Redemption line. Freekeh still offers what it offered for 4,000 years, a smoky young wheat that feeds your colon while your bloodstream barely notices it. If you made it all the way through, here is your complete framework. Slow absorption champions, Einkorn, emmer, and Freekeh, grains that physically block starch digestion. Insulin sensitizers, millet, Khorasan, and teff, grains that teach your liver and muscles to respond to insulin. Gut hormone activators, amaranth, quinoa, and rye, grains that trigger GLP-1 naturally. Anti-glycation agents, buckwheat and sorghum, grains that prevent glucose from damaging your proteins. Microbiome transformers, hulled barley, koi seed, and fonio, grains that ferment into short-chain fatty acids that repair your gut lining. Every one of these grains shares something your boxed cereal does not. They were grown before synthetic fertilizers, before high-speed roller mills, before the food industry learned to strip fiber and sell you glucose delivered faster than any ancient body ever encountered. The pharaohs, the Roman legions, the Incan runners, and the biblical prophets could not name the compounds, but they watched what worked for thousands of years. Smash that like button if this changed the way you look at breakfast. Drop a comment below and tell me which grain surprised you most, Team Einkorn, Team teff, or Team Freekeh. I read every single comment. And if you haven't subscribed to Homestead Roots yet, click that button now and ring the bell. Because the most powerful medicine doesn't come in a bottle. It grows in ancient fields, was written into sacred texts, and was eaten by the healthiest people who ever lived. And now you know exactly which grains to cook every morning.